Hello, internet world. You're in the Beat Sessions, your place for all things music. I'm your host, Mitchell Weary. Let's talk about the Antlers and their record Blight. They released that on October 10th. This is the seventh studio album for the New York outfit and their follow up to 2021's Green to Gold, an album that marked a much anticipated and celebrated return for the band after frontman Peter Silberman suffered temporary total hearing loss in his left ear in the months that led up to the release of the band's 2014 album Familiars. He put the Antlers on hold, retreating to upstate New York to focus on his health, and during that time recorded a sparse collection of acoustic tracks entitled Impermanence, all while contemplating if he could actually physically continue as a musician. And this uncertainty was compounded after he was diagnosed with vascular lesions on one of his vocal cords in the aftermath of touring Impermanence, a condition that required surgery and significant rehabilitation. Resurrecting the Antlers was nothing short of miraculous, and Peter's newfound perspective in the aftermath of his travails continues to have a significant impact on his creative impetus. Blight is a ripening of the nascent style that the band showcased on Green to Gold, building accretive songs that are deliberate and restrained, always waiting for the perfect moment to erupt with chaos or drift into vaporous meditation. And this isn't wholly uncharted territory for the band, but it's the level of temperance with which their music unfolds that separates it from records like Hospice and Burst Apart. The tracks are often sparse and minimal, unfolding with symbiotic austerity that illustrates how great musicians can create music with so much warmth and texture while utilizing a stripped down approach. Michael Lerner's performance on drums demonstrates this across the record, like the drive of the brushed hi-hat on opener Consider the Source, or the cymbal play over the electronic beat in the title track. Builds a tension that finally boils over into a propulsive breakbeat that remains docile in the mix. I really love the production there on that song. These tracks are influenced by a combination of indie folk and chamber pop that doesn't shy away from mingling with psychedelic electronic instrumentation, but that influence is not as pronounced as it once was. These elements frequently steer the music into heavier terrain, but also operate in a subdued and understated manner, with Silberman showing great awareness of how to expand each song into space while leaving plenty of room for development without them seeming dispirited or tedious. His emollient vocal performance serves the songs brilliantly too, delivering these lyrics in a haunting whisper that heightens the gravity of the album's subject matter. His voice carries a raspy sophistication these days, no doubt a result of his voice never fully recovering, but I'd argue that's a massive part of the Antlers' charm since returning. Green to Gold is a record that is about coming to terms with all of that, aging, and the limitations we face as we grow older, but it explores those themes in a lighthearted, optimistic fashion. It's a massive departure from the intense subject matter of their earlier work, and it's great to see him move forward with the confidence he exudes with this band's new sound. And I think that this is all important for context because Blight is a record that finds that signature thematic tension returning to their music, but in a fresh and unfamiliar manner. Trauma and heartbreak take center stage once again, but this time the scope of the album focuses on a broader world issue rather than the anguish of the individual. The album is inspired by walks that Peter would take through the fields surrounding his home recording studio in New York, contemplating the looming threat that human beings impose on the environment, particularly with regards to our supine inclinations to throwaway culture driven by cheap mass production and next day delivery. Silberman stated, quote, "Whereas my past lyrics dealt in extended metaphors, Blight takes a more direct approach. The consequences of accelerating technology and environmental neglect feel imminent. That sense of urgency made me want to speak more candidly. The present day specifics are so unsettling and tomorrow's possibilities are so surreal. There's no need to mince words. End quote. He castigates everyone, including himself, with urgency. There's the constant use of the first person throughout, allowing the music to land with the listener while enabling him to admit that he is culpable as well. And the album explores these issues without finding any resolution because it's meant to serve as a wake up call. And I think it would fail to resonate if he conceded any type of absolution on his part. In a look at me age of social media, Peter expertly pens a record that takes the spotlight off of him and keeps it focused on the issue at hand. And I applaud him for that. It doesn't offer forgiveness because he knows it doesn't matter. The last lines we hear him sing come from the penultimate track, A Great Flood, where he sings, "Faultless in our innocence, charming in our ignorance, pissing in the reservoir, didn't know the difference. Of this I'm uncertain. Will we be forgiven? Should there come a great flood to drown out our decisions?" What matters is that we change our habits right now, in this moment, before it's too late, because no amount of regret in hindsight will undo the damage that all of us are collectively responsible for. The album opens with the song Consider the Source, fades in on piercing feedback before ceding way to a disconsolate chord-driven piano riff and Peter's wispy, delicate vocals that match the lighter notes and enhance the tension that's built with the use of octaves. His voice is tranquilizing, but also carries great weight with its urgent message of needing to rectify the throwaway culture that dominates modern society. I love the bridge between verses. Bright notes trickle in to take the song into loftier terrain, and I love the raw production around that. The sound of an echoey brushed hi-hat with a 16-note groove breaks the tension at about the minute and 45-second mark, ushering in the rest of the rhythm that works in a loose adagio tempo. The piano drifts into a solo a bit after the halfway point, with droning synths adding a bit of texture. The third verse begins without percussion, except for the sustaining hi-hat, and then after a few lines, it builds back in to take the song to coda. Your second track is entitled Pour. Soft bass drum and block percussion laid the foundation for layers of arpeggiated acoustic guitar to go to work. There's a 12-string in the open that sounds superb. I love his use of that guitar here. And I love the big open note riff that allows the percussive elements to feel like they're creeping in and out of the song. Vocals work in conjunction with the guitar with swells of ominous synths that add to the song's depth. It has a solid folk rock feel to begin with, but I love how it takes an unexpected turn just before the 2-minute mark, with a harrowing synth taking the track into sinister ambience. Brooding piano works in to accompany the undulating synths, leading to a coda with soaring vocals and a pretty arpeggiated guitar that fades to allow the piano to finish on its own. Your third track is entitled Carnage. Staccato programming that sounds like a muted car horn almost opens this one up, with vocals following shortly after. It remains minimal for the first minute until a rollicking retro keyboard joins the party to usher in bass drum and a bit of piano. It's a dark track, but it also has a lot of soul to it. The percussion continues to develop bit by bit, with a tiny bit of bass working in too. The track smolders with influences of jazz and soulful pop before it explodes right before the 3-minute mark into an atmospheric post-rock jam with dense, distorted guitar and a great blend of keys that keep the soul element intact, finishing with heavy distortion that cuts and leads right into your fourth song, your title track, Blight. And these two tracks are probably my favorite. But Blight is going to open with light, wavy synth and a faint, deep-toned electronic percussion that feels like it's underwater. There's a clean exchange between the synth and an arpeggiated acoustic guitar, with the percussion maintaining its rhythm and the vocals going to work. Live percussion begins with cymbal work as fluttering and droning synth textures add to the depth of the song. This build cuts out into formless, piano-driven territory with a build-back that begins with the opening electronic percussion, but that abruptly transitions into an up-tempo breakbeat. This is just a cool avant-garde track with lots of instrumental movement through segments that are continually shifting their focus and tempo. And I love the build and the composition of the song. Your fifth track is entitled Something in the Air. Lots of minor piano keys give this track an uneasy, melancholy mood. The vocals are tender and airy, moving through notes that are shrill at times, enhancing the foreboding nature of this song. Light guitar and soft bass drum enter on the heels of the hook There's Something in the Air Today, with the piano coming to life with an unnerving waltz-like quality. It's like walking into a haunted ballroom and looking up to see countless of specters slow dancing in midair. I'm not even kidding. There's the soft flutter of programming that works in to perk the ears, and you can tell something is coming. And this thing burst into elegant chaos just after the 3-minute and 30-second mark and finishes with a quiet outro that features just piano and vocals. Your sixth track is entitled Deactivate. A simple arpeggiated acoustic guitar operates in the midst of droning synths that wax and wane for over a minute to start. The synths dissipate with the vocals, and the track maintains its minimalism for another minute or so before the synths re-enter with the addition of stellar harmonies. Ethereal textures also enter at about the halfway mark as the song swells into a massive shimmering coda that is weightless and mesmerizing. The soundscape is kaleidoscopic, with carnival-inspired programming and is a distorted refrain of the line, I'm waiting. It finishes on a dark note with what sounds like the puttering of a muted motorcycle engine that transitions into the sound of the ocean, which is going to become a theme with these last few songs. Your seventh track is entitled Calamity. I love the production on the opening guitar, like Peter's panning the volume up and down on the track. And it just has this soothing Latin folk feel. Lo-fi percussion builds in on a military-style drum roll that enters at about the 1-minute mark. And I love the way the bass gives the track a boost shortly after with the help of some droning synths. The vocal melodies are warm and peaceful, and they feel welcome after being immersed in a somewhat dark affair. And it leads into your eighth track, A Great Flood. The soft sound of a tide is heard behind organ-like synths that move in out to lead off your penultimate track. Vocals enter with gorgeous harmonies and a big gospel influence. The song is a minimal hymn, both sonically and lyrically, and it's breathtaking in its beauty and its severity as well. And then your final track is entitled They Lost All of Us. A somber, twinkly piano plays over the distinct sound of a tide. Thunderous synth works in and out, furthering the ominous mood of the track. The synths fade as the piano cuts out with about a minute left, leaving a coda of natural, soothing sounds. The song is instrumental, and the lack of vocals are powerful in their suggestion that we are doomed to a fate that is begat from our own negligence and selfishness. The song sounds like the quietude in the aftermath of a symbolic flood, the natural world restored with the demise of its human enemies. I took my dog out on a walk a few days back, and it's been raining a lot, but it hadn't rained for quite some time. And when I bought my house a few years ago, one of the main features that I love about it is the proximity to this river walk. When I had both of them and they were younger, especially, I used to love taking them down there, letting them swim around in the stream, and they had the best time ever. And so it had been a while since I'd taken Hufflepuff down in there. He's getting older now. He doesn't do that well in the sand. But I wanted him to play in the water a little bit. He gets so childlike, so puppy-like when I give him that opportunity. And I took him down there, and with the lack of time in between rainfall, there was so much trash that had built up in the water. I mean, like it was arguably one of the most disgusting things I've seen in such a long time. And I didn't let him in there because I didn't know what was floating around in there. Honestly, there could have been syringes, there could have been, sharp pieces of numerous objects, countless objects. Who knows what he could have potentially hurt himself on. And it just broke my heart. And this record, the entire time I was listening to this record, I thought about that. And I thought about just our general lack of care for the world around us. And I thought about, particularly in busy cities, populous areas of the country where policies are being implemented that are allowing us to not take care of people, to not give people the help and the resources that they need. And instead, there are people out there doing this and behaving with a total disregard to everything around them. And it's so frustrating. And it's going to ultimately lead to this point where, as Peter's talking about, we can't undo the damage that we're causing. And so I love this effort. I love what he's doing with it sonically and lyrically. It doesn't feel overly preachy. It just feels, again, like a call to arms, like a wake-up call for all of us to just be better in our daily lives, in our habits, in everything that we do. And so I encourage all of you to check this record out. I think it's one of the more important albums from a thematic standpoint this year, and I'm going to give it a 7.8 out of 10. I think the music is pretty solid. I do kind of regret the way that it fizzles off a little bit at the end. Thematically, what he does with the last few tracks from a lyrical standpoint, I think are great, but it would have been, I don't know. I feel like this album, for as much as it builds with strength in the beginning, does kind of fizzle to a degree. And I'd say that's probably my one criticism. But again, maybe that was part of the point that he was trying to get across, and maybe that'll settle in with other listens down the road. But 7.8 out of 10. I'm going to vinyl please this thing for sure. Go pick this up at your local record store, and I hope you enjoy it. I hope you find this review helpful as well. Please like this video, share it, subscribe to the channel. If you're feeling generous, drop a super chat. All of that stuff is so helpful in aiding me in blowing this project up in 2025. Stay tuned throughout the week for more album reviews, and we will see you next time on the Beat Sessions.